Hello, my name is Emily Govea-Rodriguez, and today we will be talking about the historical timeline of bilingual education. Most of these are acts that have been passed for one reason or another. So we're coming to the early 1800s through 1900s in bilingual history. Spanish bilingual education programs were common throughout the Southwest in the 19th century. Bilingual education in Texas has been documented since early 1836, and in 1848, the territory of New Mexico, which included modern-day Arizona and parts of Colorado, Utah, and Nevada, had a law calling for Spanish, English bilingual programs, and other schools in the United States offered instruction in Chinese, Japanese, French, Cherokee, Swedish, Danish, Norwegian, Italian, Polish, Dutch, and Czech. We have the Brown versus Board of Education. This was with Oliver Brown. It started with Oliver Brown. He filed a class action suit against the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. This was in 1951 after his daughter Linda Brown was denied entrance to Topeka's all-white elementary schools. In his lawsuit, Brown claimed that schools for black children were not equal to the white schools and that segregation violated the so-called Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, which holds that no state can deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Brown made it clear, and he states that states are responsible for providing students with equal educational opportunities, opening the way for high-quality bilingual programs. And Mr. Brown, of course, they did end up winning. Here we come next with the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. This means that education for language minority students began to improve during the Civil Rights Movement and President Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty. So, of course, this came after the Brown versus Board of Education. Although Oliver Brown did win, a lot of the changes didn't start happening until more of the civil rights movements began happening. In 1965, Congress passed the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. Some of the key components of this act are funds, policies, and procedures that target students from low-income families. Not long before the Bilingual Act of Education in 1968, an influential report titled The Invincible Minority, pero no vencibles, which means but undefeatable, resulted from a conference in 1966 sponsored by the National Education Association. The report outlines areas of concerns, but it also describes innovative education programs in southwestern states. It was to be a successful two-way bilingual program for Cuban refugee students at Coral Way Elementary School in Florida. Instruction in preschool and throughout early grades should be in both in English, and English should be taught as a second language. Soon after the report, Senator Ralph Yarborough introduced a bill to provide federal funding for school districts to support bilingual education programs. This bill eventually became the 1968 Bilingual Education Act and entered into federal law as the Title VII of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. ESEA. Now, the Educational Opportunity Act of 1974, basically this was in 1974, the Supreme Court case Lau versus Nichols resulted in what may be the most important court decision regarding English language learner education. It began with Chinese American students that were left to sink or float in mainstream classrooms despite their lack of proficiency in English. The courts believed that they did receive equal treatment, but Justice Williams Douglas argued otherwise. Douglas said, there's no equality of treatment by merely providing students with the same facilities, textbooks, teachers, and curriculum. He also said that students who do not understand English are not receiving meaningful education. So just because these students had the same classroom as a proficient English student did not mean that they were receiving equal treatment, because they do have difficulties in learning as a proficient English speaking student. Now, in turn, the law remedies essentially require districts to begin implementing bilingual education programs for English language learners, thus codifying the law into federal law, which was the Educational Opportunities Act of 1974. In 1998, we had the English for the Children initiatives. This policy scene changed dramatically after voters in 3 states with large English language learner populations, which were California, Arizona, and Massachusetts, approved the English for the Children initiatives. This placed severe restrictions on bilingual education programs. In 2001, we had the No Child Left Behind Act. The Title VII Bilingual Education Act was replaced by Title III, Language Instruction for Limited English Proficient and Immigrant Students. One of the changes was that the word bilingual was removed. And in Title III, it provides a formula which grants it grants to state education agencies, which in turn makes subgrants to eligible local education agencies that apply to the state for the funds. Title II does not make any distinctions between bilingual and non-bilingual programs. English language learners should only be placed in language instruction educational programs, which would benefit them greatly. Title I, improving the achievement of the economically disadvantaged. This ensures that all children have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education, to reach proficiency on challenging state academic achievement standards and state academic assessments. There is a mandated annual testing for students in grades 3 through 8, and it includes all English language learners, regardless of their English proficiency or how long they've been in the country. So each student will receive fair and equal treatment. Of course, it may be difficult for English language learners to receive a test that's been mandated in English only. So we have had our tests that have been transcribed into Spanish for our bilingual learners at this time. Race to the Top, which happened in July 2009, it began with Obama setting the stage for major education reforms through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. Basically, this included $44 billion in stimulus funding for education. Now, in July 2009, Obama created a new program as part of the ARRA called Race to the Top. It provided over $4 billion in competitive grants for states to begin education reforms. By 2012, nearly half of the states had been awarded Race to the Top grants, but they must adhere to four requirements. Now, the four requirements consisted of adopting internationally benchmarked standards that prepare students for success in college and the workplace, and high quality assessments that are valid and reliable for all students, including English language learners and students with disabilities. The second one is recruiting, developing, rewarding, and retaining effective teachers and principals. Number three is increase transparency by building data systems that measure student success and inform teachers and principals how they can improve their practices. And the fourth is to having supporting effective intervention strategies to turn around the lowest performing schools. Here I have the two references that I use. I use the Foundations for Teaching English Language Learners by Wayne E. Bright. This was used throughout chapter 4, pages 67 through 88. And I also used history.com to look up the Brown versus Board of Education people. Sorry, Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka.